And welcome back to the COVID Reboot series brought to you by the Cape Town Fashion Council. This is the place where we cut through the noise and we bring you the best and most important information required to reboot and boost South Africa's fashion industry. I'm here with Sian Bailey. Sian, good afternoon and welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Colin. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time out to chat to us, Sian. With this series, we are connecting industry with experts, leaders, and voices that can steer us in the right direction. We're looking at ways to revive or reboot South Africa's clothing and fashion and textile industry. And we're very privileged to have you as one of the leading voices on the show. So thank you. First and foremost, let's talk about SME brand management and talent management. What is happening in that space right now?
Well, I think it's a very exciting space at the moment. I think pre-COVID, before lockdown, everybody was a bit uncertain in terms of what the future, would be.
Yeah.
Then during COVID, I think brands and, from that perspective were very, very quiet, kind of sitting on the sidelines, figuring out, when can we engage with consumers or with industry and when not to. So and now we're at a stage where a lot of brands are now interacting and engaging and actually utilizing influencer marketing. So this is an exciting time. It's an exciting space. I know it's very easy to kind of go, things will never be the same, and how I'm going to achieve this, what I'm going to do with this, X, Y, and Z. But the reality is, it's not going to change. Mm-hmm. This is definitely a situation that we need to be comfortable with, and to push ourselves outside of our comfort zones rather, and explore the space, because being online and being in the digital space, there are so many opportunities and platforms, but also the ability to grow and connect with pure audiences, and to also connect globally, not only in South Africa.
Absolutely. Now, Sian, I know that you focus on branding strategies, and I wanted us to zoom in on that this afternoon. I also know with your company, you've worked on some of the biggest campaigns, some of the biggest successful campaigns in the country. So I want to zoom in on branding strategies quickly. Let's talk to two groups: the big corporate companies that have big budgets to spend on digital campaigns, but also on the SMME sector, so the small to medium enterprises. What should they be looking out for, and where should they be focusing their small budgets or their budgets, and also their attention when it comes to branding strategies now?
A lot of talent and brands are trying to reinvent themselves, because this is a great time to lap people in industry, because everybody's on the same page now. Whether you've been in industry for years or not, and the fact that the digital audience, if you have something great to share, they become your fans. It's still, I think industry is kind of still feeling their way around. It kind of reminds me of when Facebook, and I'm giving away my age, when Facebook was launched. And then it's like, it was first a personal platform, sharing stories, X, Y, and Z. And then brands could start engaging and creating pages, etc. Mm-hmm. Then it went from, a successful Facebook campaign is if everybody likes. Then from likes, it went to comments. Then from comments, it went to, you need to share now, to get that organic reach. And I feel like industry is kind of like in a similar space. They understand the concept of influencer marketing. They understand what it needs to achieve, but they're not really they're not getting to the meat in terms of understanding how to move the different characters around, in order to bring their campaign to life and for their client to be happy.
With everything happening now, what are some of the new developments or new avenues that you're seeing evolve or grow, and then also that these SME owners should be exploring, that is not going to cost a fortune, but it's still going to give them great leverage?
Well, if we take a step back, like when it comes to SMEs, it's like the use of television and even radio might have been too expensive. for them to kind of use as a platform.
Yeah.
But now with the rise of literally the fourth industrial revolution, in terms of where COVID has kind of pushed us in, the great thing about the digital space, SMEs should focus on growing a specific kind of audience. So what I mean by that is, if you place an ad on TV, and I'm not slating TV at all, linear still has a space, and it will probably be around for a long time still.
Absolutely.
But let's say an SME spends 200,000 Rand on an ad on linear TV, right? That ad flights X, Y, and Z. And on that specific channel, you have the opportunity to see kind of elements. So, they have an audience of 1.3 million, and that's basically how they sell advertising, right? But then when the brand spends 200,000, there's no real analytics or detail in terms of how many people actually saw the ad, or how many people were exposed to the ad. They just work on averages, depending on how many people watch during a particular time of the day.
Yeah.
With digital, and the reason why digital is so amazing is that you can take that 200,000 budget, you can push that online, whether it's digital ads, whether it's takeovers, whether it's influencer campaigns, and you can actually see your money working for you. So when you work with an agency, with a platform like Humans, as an example, they'll be able to tell you exactly how many people have seen the ad, how many people have engaged with the ad, how long that they've engaged, with the ad. So if you have a 1-minute ad, they could say 20%, watch the first 30 seconds, and the balance watch the full video. And these analytics, that's the real gold, and what a lot of clients and brands are kind of needing. If I'm spending 200,000, the analytics speaks for itself. So I feel like SMEs should be really utilizing the space. Okay. And there are so many case studies, as well as examples out there online, in terms of giving you the perspective of what campaigns work, or what does and doesn't work in that space. So if you look at, let's take a local spa as an example, right? A franchise like spa. Yeah. They sit in Fairland, right? Now with this space and with digital, they can focus on the 20 or 30 kilometer radius around their store, so I feel like brands should be their focus should be getting proper data from the area. So like a spa in Fairlands will be communicating to a person who lives in Fairland or in Northcliffe, which is something that linear TV can't really, or rather the traditional platforms can't really provide.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't hurt the bank either, because advertising and pushing and coming up with something really cool online, is far less than on a
TV ad campaign. I love that, and I want to zoom in on it not hurting the bank. And I think that's been intimidating to many SME business owners. So to the smaller, medium enterprises, they haven't prioritized spend or advertising spend as expected or as they should be. And so I remember PwC report, or their media outlook report for 2019 going on 2022. Their predictions was that we were going to see a spike in TV advertising spend again, and 2020 was meant to be that big year where TV ad sales, and then this pandemic, and then this crisis hits the country, and we're having to restructure everything, because now it doesn't make sense to spend overly on TV ad. It makes sense to now spend in the digital advertising space. But let's talk again to small businesses. What advertising platforms and opportunities and strategies should they be considering in light of everything that is happening now? Because digital is no doubt the place to be. But we want to talk about it doesn't break the bank. So what should they be considering?
Well, first of all, one thing that I do need to mention is that the digital space is a specialized space.
Yes.
So just because you can push numbers, whether it's via your company's Facebook page, etc., you know, it's not as simple as that. So the first step is to find a supplier or a smaller agency. There are loads of smaller agencies. I mean, you don't really need to go to the massive, you know, agencies who obviously deal with the blue chip brands, etc. But because of COVID, I think that a lot of freelancers have come into the space who understand brand and marketing and PR and communications, etc. So first get somebody who is kind of specialized or is an expert in that field, and who will be able to assist. In terms of my business, it's very difficult to provide an example, because what we do is, when we work with specific talent, we ask them, cool, where are you at the moment? And we do a brand strategy and going, cool, okay, so as a result of COVID, these elements you can no longer do. So what can we do now?
Absolutely.
The reality is a lot of corporates and brands have kind of lost budget as a result of COVID. So it's very difficult to kind of give SMEs that, you know, particular advice. I mean, for me, I'm just going to go, you know, what's your product? You know, what are you launching? What is the objective? Is it awareness? Do you want to push sales, etc.? So there are a lot of elements, you know, that I need to consider in that question. But to kind of give it a nice answer, I suppose that if SMEs are interested in exploring the digital space, they first need to partner with a supplier who can give them insights in that space.
You mentioned brand strategy or branding strategy earlier. I want to zoom in on this quickly and just break this down. When putting together or you know, constructing a branding strategy, what are the first 3 steps that SME owners should take?
So when it comes to brand strategies and small businesses, a good place to start is understanding what your objective is, and to outline those objectives and to make sure that they are measurable. When it comes to strategy and brand planning, especially with COVID, I think that SMEs should, you know, clean their own house first, meaning a very, very large portion of our society are now living and engaging online. So go to your, like, everybody has a website, right? Everybody has a Facebook
should
page.
Have a website.
Correct. But is that website user friendly? Am I getting the information that I need? So for instance, if this SME is a courier service or a food, you know, a cafe or whatever, you know, is it easy to use your platform on your website, or if it's an app, etc. So if my advice would be that for small businesses to look at the way they currently engage with an online audience and to improve those platforms, because when you online, and as you are, you know, probably you can say the same, if I'm busy engaging with your platform and I'm not getting what I want, I close and then I go to the next best thing. You know what I'm saying? So that is my worst. I mean, my first kind of piece of advice is, before you even think of brand strategy, look at your current platforms now and look at how you can expand. So it's not just about, you know, kind of, you know, I just like platforms like small business platforms that it looks just like a catalog. Like it's just poster. And we've moved on from that. So for brands to become a little bit more creative and to focus on engaging with their audience versus talk in your face. Kind of, you know, clean your own house first, make sure that all your online platforms are working, and you know your audience is getting a great experience, because if that is not in order, it's very easy for somebody just to move along.
I love that. So you're saying the first step to crafting a strategy is to go and clean up so that you can now be more effective and engaging for the new norm.
Yeah.
What are your predictions, Sian? You know the space, you know the digital space, and you've seen the evolution of digital marketing, influencer marketing with brands, both big and small. What are your predictions? I mean, with creative brands now realizing the potential to leverage online because overhead costs are quite low. Why would they go back? So, what are your predictions with the future of digital marketing?
I think that people should be just really focusing on the future, and the prediction is that this is going to be the way of life. If you look at corporates and brands, whether you're a small business or a big business, even I know people who are in that corporate space, their businesses have already restructured. It's like corporates and agencies are realizing, actually, staff can work from home.
Absolutely.
This whole system is working, and for many it's meaning that there's less money to be spent because now that you don't have to have these big offices or whatever the case may be. And if you look at the duration of COVID, that started in March, this is habit forming. You understand what I'm saying? It's not as if COVID came and gone in 2 weeks, but people are getting used to working at home, getting used to operating differently. Even now, when I go into the shopping mall, it's a standard for me to sanitize and put on my mask and walk around like it's it's normal. So I feel like that there will be a lot more activity in the digital space, that this is just going to continue to grow. I don't feel that it will ever be the same again, but because of the space, I feel like there are going to be a lot more technology companies or marketing companies that will be able to pull real stats and figures.
Let's talk, Sian. Let's talk about challenges. Let's talk about some of the challenges of advertising or marketing in the digital space. Because here's the thing: going digital, you can either get it right or you can get it wrong, and it's an easy space for brands to completely ruin their brand image and reputation. So, what are some of the challenges that you've seen brands encounter in that space?
Well, I can only really speak to obviously the influencer or the talent space, because that's where my business plays, although we support industry as a whole. I think that one of the main challenges that I feel like brands are going to face is how to properly utilize the space, and how to kind of change their normal way of thinking and apply it to a digital or to an online audience.
100%.
And that is something that A, takes time, but B, because there are so many examples out there in terms of and available online, there's nobody sitting with that IP and with that knowledge. That's something that you can definitely go online in terms of exploring what has worked, what hasn't worked in the space. So I feel like that could be a potential barrier in terms of not understanding how to use the digital space. So there's a bit of a pricing war in industry, and what brands should kind of steer towards when it comes to influencer marketing is education. As an example, for smaller SMEs, where they should be looking in terms of the influencer space, they shouldn't be spending their money on the big talent and the big celebrities and kind of only using them to kind of push their whatever their objective is. Using nano influencers. Now, nano influencers are people of influence that I think has a following between 1,000 and 5,000 people, who are way cheaper than your superstar and your micro influencers.
Are you advising that brands look, or small to medium brands look at that as an alternative? So looking at
100%.
Wow.
100%.
Wow.
So in terms of where SMEs can focus on, is definitely utilizing nano influences. Nano influences, so in the influencer world, and I think this is just important to share because a lot of people don't understand this.
We want the information.
You get nano, you get nano influencers, you get micro influencers, and then you kind of get your superstar influencers. I mean, there are different types. Some websites might give you 6 types of influencers, but technically they're really 3. And that's all dependent on how many people follow you. So nano influencers is between 1,000 to 5,000 influencers. Then your micro influencers is between 15 and 30 or 40. And then like your superstar guys are on 100,000 followers and up. So that's just a quick summary in terms of who they are. According to case studies that are available, using nano influencers are showing way more and better results than using 100% using the big talent or the big guys.
Yes.
The successful campaigns are the combination of all 3, where you might, let's say you've got a budget of 300,000 Rand. You might go, okay, for the top talent or for the superstar influencer, we want this person to do the big launch and the big announcement. But then that campaign is going to be supported by nano influencers and micro influencers. So, Zara had a really, really successful campaign. I think it was last year sometime, where they just used a bunch of nano influencers.
I remember this, yes.
100%, and it's probably one of the most successful examples or a great example of what nano influencers can do for your brand. And I'm just a bit surprised that not other brands have kind of jumped onto that.
Absolutely.
But you also know, living or being in an agency environment, it's like deadline driven, a client needs this, client needs that, etc. And I think my wish is just for industry to step back and to kind of look at the entire landscape and to use the right people of influence. And I think
absolutely
that for me is probably one of the and I mean, besides influencer marketing, I mean, obviously you can, there are other ways to market yourself in the online space, but specifically from an influencer marketing perspective, I feel like this currently now is the biggest barrier. And agencies are not realizing that they can use unfamiliar faces to still achieve the overall objective
and get that result. Yeah. I mean, I'm totally for that. And I mean, I know nano influencers, it's a fairly new term, but Zara has proven that that's a really great strategy. And I wanted to get that from you, or your expert advice, because SME owners with smaller budgets, that's where they should be looking at right now, at doing campaigns 100%. And using more than one nano influencer. So a great strategy that Sian is sharing on the platform here. Quickly, what has been the biggest piece of advice that you've received as a businesswoman?
My passion is personal brand. So individuals like you, individuals like Jason, etc., and kind of exploring that space. So Jason might be a comedian, but he's a radio host. He's a motivational speaker. He's all these other things. So it's kind of looking at a strategy around your personal brand versus just being reactive the whole time.
Absolutely.
So he basically told me, picture the type of business you want and the type of work that you want to do, and then do it. And that's exactly, what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
Also, that just keep on moving forward. Instead of getting caught up in the craziness of what this pandemic can bring.
Absolutely.
But also, this was a great time to sit back and realize, where are the gaps in industry, where my business partner and I can penetrate. So it's like, do what you love, and it's not easy, but just keep on pushing and moving forward, because at the end of the day, if you are doing something that you love, it doesn't matter if you're waking up 4 o'clock in the morning, you know, or working.
You're going to make it. You're going to make it work, and that is the true mark of a strategic thinker, and that is why we wanted to get you on the show. I think now more than ever, a lot of business owners are looking at the strategic voices in the industry, you know, in those different respective services. And we're looking at how to now plug into these different platforms. We're looking at different avenues for marketing. We're looking at how the digital space is evolving and where brands should be connecting. And that's exactly what we're doing with the series, or the COVID reboot series, is we're saying what are the shifts and the developments taking place, and then how can we now strategically match the industry stakeholders to the resources and also the leading voices. So thank you for sharing that. We no doubt seeing an emergence of the digital space, and so we wanted to zoom in on some simple branding strategies and steps that businesses could take. Also, if we are saying to fashion business owners that, you know, this is where you should be spending your money, then we wanted leading voices like yourself to say, but this is why you should be spending your money there, and this is how it's going to benefit. So thank you so much for sharing that information with us. There we go. Now, guys, for more information, visit 321influence.co.za. Loads of exciting services offered by the country. Our job is to move South Africa's fashion economy forward. We're zooming in on the clothing textile industry. We're zooming in on the creative space. And more importantly, as the Fashion Council, we're saying, who are the people, what are the resources, and how can we, as an industry together, move the economy forward? It's Sian Goliath, co-founder at 321 Influence. Sian, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you. And if you joined us for the very first time, hop on over to www.ctfc.co.za for more incredible interviews with industry leaders, experts, and pioneers. We talk finance, HR, entrepreneurship, marketing, manufacturing, and loads more. I'm your host, Colin Donsko. Join us next time for more exciting and important information right here on the COVID Reboot series. For now, take care and God bless. Sian, thank you so much again.
Thank you.